Welcome to Clear Horizon Conversations. I'm Theo.
And I'm Connie Kaplan, the attorney and founder of Clear Horizon Legal Solutions.
We're here to break down immigration law into real talk. No jargon, no judgment, just real answers for real people.
Excellent. Let's get this started.
Excellent. So, today we're going to talk about how the US immigration system actually works. First question we have: what are the main paths to US immigration in the US?
Well, when we are talking about U.S. immigration, we are talking about immigrant visas, those who want to come to the United States to stay in the United States permanently. We are talking about non immigrant visas, those would be those who want to come to the United States on a temporary basis. And then, of course, within each category, we have different options. How much do you want me to break this down?
As detailed as possible.
Oh boy, we'll be here for a while. So let's get started. So let's talk about non immigrant options. Generally speaking, those are visas that you apply for from abroad to come to the United States. We have some agreements with some of the foreign countries where um, they don't need visas. For example, there are countries in Western Europe, Singapore, a few others who do not need visas to come to the United States for general tourist activities. There are other countries where they can register before they come to the United States, and that is considered sufficient. There is another tier of countries where they need to apply for a tourist visa. And this is just tourist visas, okay? People coming here to go to the beach. Then we have temporary visas for business, temporary visas, for example, coming here for business meetings, coming here to train workers on a certain product that's probably developed abroad or a certain process that's developed abroad. Those are all temporary in nature. So somebody comes here, they do what they need to do, and they want to go back. So those are temporary. There are 186 different visas, each of them with their own rules, regulations, what applies, what doesn't apply, what evidence you need to submit. So they're all different. Um, and then in terms of immigrant visas, we are talking those who want to come to the United States to live permanently in the United States, basically get permanent residency and eventually become US citizens. Um, in that category, there are five general ways to get permanent residency in the United States. And there are more, of course, but we can only fit so much in it, right? So let's just stick with the main five options. One is green card lottery. It actually opens up every single year about September or October. I think this year is September 4th, October 4th. I'm not sure. And people can apply to enter into the lottery. There is a cap to the number of green cards that they are allowing. And certain countries with a significantly high number of immigrants in the past few years are excluded from the lottery every year. And that changes, generally speaking. So that's one.
Okay, so who's allowed changes to apply for the lottery?
Who can apply for the lottery? Anyone basically who has a high school education and it's from one of those countries who is listed as, yes, you can apply this year.
Understand.
Generally speaking, people from Haiti can never apply. People from Venezuela cannot apply. There are certain countries that, because of the sheer number of immigrants that the United States has from those countries, they are just excluded. Um, but if they do win the lottery, then they apply for the visa and they get a permanent residency upon arrival into the United States. The second one, it's humanitarian options. So they can apply for refugee status if they are outside the United States. They can apply for asylum if they are already in the United States. And there are a few other options there for victims of crime and victims of trafficking or domestic abuse. Um, then we have the three major categories: immigration by investment, immigration through employment, and then immigration through family. And those are the major categories.
Understood. Thank you. Next question. What are the most misconceptions about US immigration?
Oh, we can talk about that for days, days, days. So the first one, and we get this a lot, is it's just forms. I'm just going to fill out the form, and once I fill out the form, it's good. And there is a form out there on USCIS's website that says application to register permanent residence or apply for permanent resident status. And people think I'm just going to fill out that form, pay the fee, and I'm getting my residency. This is more common than people think it is. And generally they find out that that is the wrong process a few years later after they already ran out of status, after they already realized that's not the way that works, and they paid thousands of dollars on the application alone. And generally speaking, the preparer who did it for them, or they just did it on their own. Because look, in other countries, it's easier. It is more streamlined, the process. In other countries, you go online, you fill out the process, you submit, you immediately get a registration, and then the process is pending for a few days to a few weeks, and then you're done and it's approved or denied, and you know what you need to do. Not in the United States. United States is still stuck in the 1960s. Most of the applications you still file by mail, and then they don't process them for a few months. You don't get a receipt. Um, some of them are available online, but you need to know exactly what you are um, filling out. Let's put it this way: if you have a form that's 3 pages and the instructions are 21 pages, clear indication that's not something you should try on your own.
Or
So that's
trying.
one misconception, that it's just forms. Let me move on to some of the other. Because you said misconceptions plural, right?
Correct.
All right, so let's go into those. Second one is I can do this on my own. Okay, very common. I can do this on my own because again, it's just forms, right? Well, I can also do surgery on myself, doesn't mean I should, right? So, can I diagnose myself? Sure, absolutely. I can put my symptoms into some online AI or
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, exactly, right? And then it's going to tell me go to WebMD, and WebMD is going to tell me, well, you either have a headache or you have cancer, and every option in between. And then I'm going to say, well, okay, I'm going to treat myself. And if it says I do surgery, I should do surgery on myself, right? And not let the professional handle it. This is the same thing. It is honestly the same. If you are going on a form on a government website and you have questions and you don't know how to answer them, or you're more confused than you were before you even got there, then maybe you should not be doing it on your own. Let a professional handle it. And we have consults, we have people who call all the time and they're like, well, what do you do for a living? And they're like, well, I'm a cabinet maker. Great. So if I call you on the phone and I'm asking you, how much is it going to cost for you to install a kitchen for me? Are you going to give me a price over the phone before you know how big is my kitchen, how many cabinets I want, what kind of materials do I want used? Do I want door dampeners for the
Right.
cat? It's the same thing. You can't. And if you give me a fee over the phone without knowing what I need or what I'm looking for, then one, you're either not going to get the business, or second, I'm really not going to like you because you didn't care enough to find out. And three, you're going to do not a good job.
Right.
Okay. So it's very similar with immigration, except it's worse because it's your life. This is not something people should be playing with, right? We get this a lot where people call and I say, well, why can't you give me a fee over the phone?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have a headache or you have cancer. I don't know if you want granite countertops or you just want butcher block, right? It's the same thing. I need to come and measure. Basically, you need to meet with the attorney. You need to tell the attorney ahead of time uh, what your immigration history is, what your family history is, what your criminal history is, even if you don't have any, right? So we need to know all that. And then we need to know the entire timeline on how this happened, when it happens, because immigration changes every day. People who entered back in the 90s that still don't have status will have different options than people who entered a year later or people who entered the day ago. totally different. So
That is crazy.
you cannot, I mean, we are in this business and it's very difficult to keep up and to actually think that somebody can do this on their own. Oh my God.
So you do see a lot of people finding themselves in compromising situations because they attempted to do things on their own.
All the time. All the time. And here's the thing, it's like, well, I didn't have the money for it, which is totally understandable. And that's something we always understand. What I don't understand is where they do it on their own, knowing better. Okay. Uh, when you have professionals who attempt to do this on their own, we have doctors who do immigration forms. And then I ask them, how do you feel if I need to inject myself and I don't know what I'm injecting myself with? What would you say to that? That you shouldn't be doing that. It's very similar. If you read a question on one of the forms and the form says, have you ever committed a crime involving moral turpitude? And you do not know what the crime is defined as, what moral turpitude is, and when you're guilty or not guilty, when you are considered guilty or not guilty for immigration purposes, then you have no business doing that form on your own. Okay? There is a difference between domicile and residence. People think it's the same. It is not. You answering that question wrong could be construed by immigration as misrepresentation or fraud, and you're in deeper water. So, yes, we see this all the time, and they come to see us after they already applied and it's been pending for a while because government doesn't know what to do with them, or they already applied and they're getting a request for evidence, pretty much asking for the entire application from scratch, if they're lucky. Or they just get a denial or a notice of intent to deny, and now they have 30 days to fix this if there is a way to fix it. And in Spanish, there is that saying that says, lo barato sale caro, meaning what's cheap is expensive. And that's because instead of paying in the beginning a professional to actually do this for you, um, you're waiting until the end where it's so much more complicated and sometimes you can't even fix it as a professional. So that's something that definitely shouldn't happen. Okay. Yeah, let's just stick with that
Okay.
because I could talk about it forever and ever.
Okay, so just to confirm, you've had clients that could have not received the denial and could proceeded with the process, but because they did it on their own, now it's done.
Yes, because they do not know what they're answering. A simple question, for example, there is a question on the green card application. How many children do you have? Right? And they got married, and each of them were married before, and they have two kids together. And then each of them has two more kids from their prior relationships. And they're only listing the two children on the application. No, no, no. You have six children altogether. The minute you are married to a person, their children are yours for immigration purposes. So you have to list all children. Well, my husband or my wife doesn't give me all the information for the other children. You should know their names because you got married to this person. And yeah, you may not know their date of birth. That raises a million other questions. How much and how truthful is that relationship? Because you should be discussing these things with your spouse and ideally before married. Um, but definitely, it's like list all your children. You're missing a child or not wanting to disclose. Um, it's a problem. It's misrepresentation.
Right.
And then we are having fraud issues. Then you need a waiver. A waiver alone could be over $10,000, including professional assessments. So just list the damn kids, right?
So hire a lawyer.
Hire a lawyer, exactly, right? So speaking of, we had a client, and this was a gay couple, okay, and they had been married for a long time. Okay, one of them was older, one of them was younger, and the younger person was the foreign national. And while they were married, he had a child with a woman in this was a gay couple, gentleman, right? And he had a child with a woman in another country. Normally, people would think that is, oh my God, how do I get over that? Because I have a child. And they were leaning towards not disclosing the child on the naturalization application. And I'm like, why? How did that happen? It's like, well, my spouse is getting older. He really wanted to have a child. We had to find a way to get a child. We couldn't afford adoption. We couldn't afford surrogacy. We couldn't afford any of these things. So I had a child abroad. And that's okay. That's totally fine. It was a real explanation. And the truth is, he's listed as the father on the birth certificate. The mother is whoever the mother is, but that doesn't make it fraudulent. Why not disclose the truth? People have these preconceptions that immigration is going to look at this and think it's fraud. Yes, they might, but you can overcome that. I mean, they have so many communications, for example, and text messages, and so much evidence to prove that both of them were involved into this process. And why did they need that? And why there was nothing going on there. But people tend to not tell the truth because they are afraid.
Right.
And that's not the case.
Right.
So see a lawyer.
Yep. Moving on to agencies and legal support. Can you break down for us what USCIS does?
Sure. So USCIS, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, part of Homeland Security, uh, became part of Homeland Security after 9/11. And it does background vetting, so it does all the background checks. Yes, uses the FBI systems and whatever, but they are in charge with vetting and verifying the background of each and every single applicant for any immigration benefit in the United States. Um, they are in charge of adjudicating, basically making a decision on work permits, permanent residency, citizenships, changes of status from one to another, for example, say from tourist to student or from student worker visa, whichever. Um, and they adjudicate, they make decisions on humanitarian applications such as trafficking visa, victims of crime, violence against women's act, asylum applications. Each of those processes have multiple steps. So they verify the accuracy of the documentation, eligibility. They do the background checks. They issue requests for evidence or a denial, and they interview people for the immigration benefit. And speaking of, because you did ask about misconceptions,
Yeah.
and we get this a lot. People think I'm a US citizen, so I married this person now who's a foreign national, and it's my right to have them here in the United States. No, immigration is not a right. Immigration is a benefit. You can meet 100% of the criteria and have absolutely nothing wrong. And USCIS or immigration agency, whoever adjudicates your application, can deny your application based on discretion. What does that mean, discretion? The officer doesn't believe you would be a good fit for the United States, and they're going to say, nah, I don't think so, not today. You cannot even appeal anything based on discretion. Now, it's even harder when your application doesn't even meet 100% of the eligibility criteria, or there is anything going on in your application that raises flags. You know, you maybe had a DUI, maybe you just had driving without a license, but you had 20 of them over the past 20 years. Those are raising concerns. So, even in the best of the circumstances, when there is nothing going on, they can still exercise their discretion and deny it because, again, immigration is not a right, it's a benefit. Did I finish answering that question? What was your last question? I want to make sure because I go on tangents.
Can you break down what USCIS does?
Yes, there you go. I answered that. So they decide your fate, they decide your future, and now is not the time to play.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's perfect because we're going into what role do immigration attorneys play when, you know, USCIS, and when should someone hire an immigration attorney?
The minute they think they want to stay in the United States, or the minute they think they want to come to the United States, that's when they should have a legal strategy session with an attorney. That's the first time. Uh, when a US citizen decides that they want to hire a foreign national, or they are in love with a foreign national, or they are now a US citizen, they want to sponsor family members, that the minute that thought is in their head, that is when they should contact an immigration attorney and meet with an immigration attorney. Before they go into ChatGPT and Google and the rest of it. Yes, don't get me wrong. It's much easier to have a conversation with the client who has educated themselves on the basics. What we tend to see lately, since the advent of AI, okay, is, oh no, I qualify for this. I just need you to tell me how to do it. And we go into it and they just simply 100% do not qualify. And they just don't believe you because AI is right and you're wrong. Oh, so yeah, we deal with this a lot quite a bit lately. And then they get the denial, and then they are either embarrassed to come back. Okay. Sometimes we can fix those things, whatever it is. Sometimes we can. Um, that's why they should do it from the beginning. It's a small price to pay to have a full strategy session. With a caveat that everything changes in immigration so fast these days that I can have a conversation with a client, give them an option, lay out the whole strategy for them, and they take too long to make a decision. And by the time we get started on the case, the strategy totally changed. Meanwhile, maybe they're running out of status. Then we don't have the time. People, they take too long to make a decision. And that hurts them. It just simply hurts them. Sometimes we tell people, don't do anything now. You need to wait a few months. It is what it is. Then that's the right time to do it. But you need to know that. And how are you going to know that? ChatGPT is not.
Right. So it's critical to book a legal strategy session.
Oh, absolutely. And you should not. I mean, I'm an immigrant. Okay. It took me 16 years to get my own papers. I have been through this process. Yes, it was not the current situation. Okay. Um, but I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
And I started the process. Um, I went through a lot and nothing moved for about 10 years in my case because I didn't know what I didn't know. I thought it's filling out forms. Been there, done that, speaking from experience. Um, and at some point, I just hired the lawyer. Now, I come from a former communist country where lawyers work for the government. So I didn't trust lawyers. I didn't even know that the lawyer could work for you. It took me a long time. And um, then you hired the lawyer, and that's when things start moving in your case. Um, Again, that was back then. These days, lawyers can't move certain things, cannot move other things. Um, and then things started moving, and I started seeing the value of having a lawyer. I got the work permit. I was able to got the social security number. Um, had I hired a lawyer from the beginning, I would have been a permanent resident and then a citizen significantly sooner than I was. It took me 16 years to become a citizen. 16. During this process, I've been in asylum, deportation proceedings. They didn't call it removal back then, they called it deportation. Um, Government lost my file. Okay. So I was granted permanent residency, but because in the system I was granted permanent residency and I never got the card, they wouldn't issue a work permit anymore because I had residency. So I couldn't prove to my employers that I was able to work. That alone, to get somebody to open my file, we had to file a lawsuit against the government to get someone to actually look in archives and file my file and actually see. This was before everything was computerized. Okay? I'm dating myself. Thank you. But dating myself, but you get the idea.
Right.
Had I known then what I know now, I would not even have attempted to do it without.
Right.
I wouldn't. And why I do what I do today is because I don't want anyone, not one person, to go what I'm going through.
Yeah. So because you went through all that, you're very capable to empathize with your clients. And
Oh, I've been there, done that. I mean, yes, I have been there. So um, I understand their issues. I
yeah,
understand how difficult it is not to be able to drive, not to be able to work, uh, to be afraid of being picked up and being deported all the time. And it's crazy these days compared to what it was back then. But I still empathize. I understand the feeling. I know how it is to be here for a long period of time thinking, where do I go and how would I rebuild if I have to go either back home or another country? It is terrifying. It's paralyzing.
yeah,
It forces you to not even make a decision. It's just you're you're stuck. You feel stuck. And they shouldn't feel stuck. They should see a path to the future. But they need to take that first step. Okay.
yeah.
They need to
Very well
call a
said.
lawyer.
Yeah. So, okay, that's perfect because it goes into the next question. What happens during a typical consultation or a legal strategy session with you?
Well, we don't do consultations. Okay. We do legal strategy sessions because a consultation is, let's assume you're calling our office.
Mhm.
The consultation would be, yeah, can you help me with my green card? Yes. Okay, we established I'm the right law firm for you, and you established I can help you. Where do we go from here? Do you know any more now than you knew before you called me? And that's what most law firms will do. And you call them and you don't get the attorney on the phone. On the second hand, if you do get the attorney on the phone, frankly, do you want an attorney who's not busy and has the time to answer their own phone? Because I wouldn't, but to each his own. Um, that's the right lawyer for some people, and that's okay,
Right.
right? That wouldn't be for me. As an immigrant, that would not be the lawyer that I would pick, right? Um, I prefer a legal strategy session. We spend an hour together. I go over your immigration history, your marital history, your family history, your criminal history, if you have any. And believe it or not, most people do not have a criminal history, contrary to what the popular belief is out there these days. So I would meet with them for for a legal strategy session. No, my time is not free. Okay, because I need to take time from other clients to be able to meet with you and discuss with you. But I also ask you that you send me documents ahead of time. I review those documents. I know more about your immigration history than, yes, I can help you, lawyer. Okay. Uh, and then when we are meeting, we are actually having an educated conversation with hopefully more than one to two, three paths uh, that allow you to come to the United States or remain in the United States and achieve your goal, whatever that goal is.
Yeah.
And not everybody's goal is permanent residency. There are people who want to come and open a business in the United States. There are people who just want to come and study in the United States. That's fine. But you still need to know how you can get that student visa. In the United States, from outside, what will it take? How friendly is your consulate to that? You need to know those things. And unless we actually ask all those questions ahead of time, you need to fill out an intake form. It's being reviewed by me before the meeting. I'm asking for additional documents. You need to send them to me. I have literally canceled appointments because the people haven't sent me the documents. I don't want to waste their time and money. So I'll be more than happy to reschedule once I get the time to review that for you. Yes, am I going to review 1,500 pages at no charge just so I can get ready for a consultation, legal strategy session time with the client? Absolutely not. But I will have a better idea about what has happened in their case.
Right.
I can make an educated plan for them, you know, plan their future and how we're going to get that done.
Excellent.
Does it answer when
It
consultation versus strategy session?
absolutely.
Oh, there is another question we get a lot. How much is it going to be? We get that a lot. How much is it going to cost for you to get me my green card? Well, anywhere between, I don't know, $5,000, $6,000 to $60,000 could be, because I do not know when you enter the country, how you enter the country. Did you enter legally? Did you enter legally with or without papers? Did you enter with or without a visa? Have you ever been arrested? Do you have immigration violations? Do you have family in the United States? What is their status? Um, I need to know so much, right? Before I can tell you how much is it going to cost. And then they get upset. What do you mean it's going to be between 6,000 and 60,000? Well, that's how much it's going to be because I cannot honestly tell you. This is like going to the emergency room and saying to the triage nurse, I cannot breathe, and expect them to give you an inhaler. Meanwhile, you probably have COPD or a collapsed lung and you need surgery and then you need 6 months of physical therapy. I don't know, I'm not the doctor. This is not medical advice. Seriously. But it's like, maybe people can visualize that. I don't know.
Right.
That's what we are struggling with these days.
And even in the emergency room, you have to fill out an intake form.
And even there, assuming you can breathe.
Correct.
Yes. And I'm saying this from experience because I've been in the emergency room when I couldn't breathe. Okay. But trust me, the question that was on my mind at that point was, can they save me? Was not, how much is it going to cost?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So let's go into legal updates.
Oh, do we have to?
Well, just for a little update. Yes.
All right. So I do have some updates.
Okay.
Let's stick with whatever I do today. Okay. And today is July 27th
Right.
of 2025. By the time we are done with this recording and probably editing and then posting it, it has changed. And I'm saying this because I want people to understand this is what's today. And this happens on legal strategy sessions as well. I can meet with people, and like I said earlier, if you take too long to decide, the law has changed. And I'll give you a good example on that later on. Please remind me, okay? So let's talk about some of the immigration changes, major immigration changes in the past 30 days. I'm not going to go over changes that have happened since January because we'll be here talking for days and days and days. So let's stick with some of the critical ones for the past 30 days. And I had to write it down because I can't keep track. Okay. Yeah. So HHS issued notice excluding undocumented immigrants from certain federal benefits. Okay. So it's tightening social service eligibility. Back in January, early January, if you apply, for example, for permanent residency, and along with that, you applied for a work permit, on the work permit application and USC on the green card application, you would ask Social Security to issue a Social Security number and the Social Security card for you.
Right.
Well, was so streamlined, was working beautifully, saving people a lot of time and really time and processing. And now they are no longer doing that. One agency doesn't talk to the other agency, and they are not in USCIS no longer informs SSA, the Social Security Administration, about issuing work permits or issuing certificates of naturalization or certificates of citizenship to people. The only time USCIS informs SSA about change in status, it's permanent residence. So you're applying.
Right.
First thing you should get is the work permit. And because they are no longer communicating now, the client, the immigrant has to wait 3 to 6 weeks until Social Security Administration receives the data from USCIS. They need to make an appointment. They need to spend hours there. At that point, they need to do a simple check on the system and it's issued. And then they need to wait 2 weeks for the card to be issued. So there is a delay in these people being able to join the workforce, being able to get jobs, being able to interview for jobs. Even if they do interview for jobs, they won't be able to start until they get their social.
Right.
And most employers won't even hire them because until you have a social, they cannot run the e-verify
And
system.
because of this update, a lot of people don't even know, so they might be just waiting.
Yes. And every once in a while, we get posts from people saying, well, I don't know, my lawyer did something wrong because my friend 6 months ago got their social as soon as they got the work permit. I got my work permit 4 weeks ago and I still don't have my social. Yeah, you need to make an appointment. It's not that the lawyer did anything wrong. The government no longer communicates left hand with right hand, so they're operating independently. So that's update number one. Update number two, on July 8th, U.S. Department of Agriculture issued National Farm Security Action Plan. Basically says there is cooperation on immigration enforcement within the agricultural communities. No, this is not the farmers cooperating, okay? This is neighbor A complaining about neighbor B and other associations dealing with it, okay? So the direction says that they are aiming to boost compliance, security, and monitoring of farm worker related immigration. It's already in effect. What actually is happening is raids on the field. Raids on the field.
Right.
There are so many workers who no longer show up to work because they don't want to be detained.
Yeah, they're scared.
That's it. They're not going to do it. Department of State, they redelegated authority regarding security vetting and visa privilege. They invoke privilege over security vetting, narrowing access to information, applies to new visa applicants and existing visa holder. And we get this a lot from people who say, well, I have student visas, but they put me into secondary inspection, or I'm still here. They revoked my student visa. Guys, remember all the news with people who had their student visas revoked and whatever,
Yes.
and they need to apply for a brand new one? There's litigation and whatever, but that's an issue. These are people who are here 3 weeks before graduation and they can't continue going to school to graduate after they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in that education for that education. Now they cannot benefit from it, or they cannot even complete to get the degree because attending a class after your visa has been revoked, it's a violation of your status.
To be clear, to get a student visa, you enter legally.
Absolutely.
So they've entered legally,
Mhm.
and now they have lost status.
Correct. Overnight, like this. Uh-huh. Yes. And to be clear, since we are on to be clear, let's say 1 credit hour you as a US citizen would pay $1,000. At most, colleges and universities a foreign national pays 2,500 to 5,000 to 6,000 for the same credit hour. So, yeah, they are getting an education. Yes, they are getting an education in the United States. First, it's not all that great, but okay. Second, if they are getting an education they have paid for, they should be able to finish. Okay.
Mm.
Third, this is what keeps a lot of the colleges, universities in business and able to provide an education. And sometimes in areas where they wouldn't even be able to survive without the foreign students. You should see how many colleges and universities are no longer taking students for this coming student year, starting in August and September. Just look at that. Next one. US and Honduras, they signed an asylum co-op agreement announced in July 8th. Well, this is a problem because it's for processing asylum seekers, okay? So it limits ability. The way asylum works, it's asylum and refugee. Asylum is something you apply from where you are already in the United States, or you apply for asylum at the port of entry. So let's say you come on a visa, you apply at the airport. When you land, you can apply later on also. You can apply it there, or you enter um, illegally, you get caught to apply for asylum, you go to a credible fear, or you apply through CBP1, used to be, you would apply through CBP1, then they would schedule you, you go in. Under this agreement where Honduras basically is saying, Anybody who's in a third country, for example, we have someone from Venezuela, they come through Mexico. Instead of being able to get processed at the border, they're going to be sent to Honduras to be processed for processing asylum. Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. So let's just not even go there, how it makes no sense. Not only that, this affects Hondurans. How are they going to apply for asylum if the processing takes place in their own country? Okay. Next, there is an ICE memo that eliminated bond hearings altogether for undocumented immigrants. It's suspended. So if you are detained, there are some exceptions, but very few. Uh, Many detained immigrants now face prolonged detention. They are not entitled to a hearing. They are not entitled to bond. And to be clear, what is bond? Government will decide if you are a flight risk or no flight risk, and security risk, no security risk, community risk or no community risk. And based on that, you pay a fee, your family or whoever, they pay the bond, and you're out, guaranteeing that you are going to go back to court and appear at all your hearings. Mind you, most of the people now in detention, they were already reporting twice. They already had bond or they had ankle monitors, but all times government knew where they were. Yes, all of them? No, absolutely not all of them, but the majority. So they were already doing all the reporting. We already know that they are not a security threat. We already know they're showing up to every single interview and every single court hearing. The current situation is we are not granting bond because Geo Group and the Core Civic, they need to make money of every single person in detention. So we are going to keep them there as long as possible because it's for profit. The prison system, the detention systems in the United States is for profit. Okay. And that is the issue with the bonds.
And who's paying for that?
The taxpayers. You and I are paying for it. And everybody else. We are all paying for that. Okay. Which brings me to another one of the updates in the US Department of Homeland Security and uh, the US Marines have entered into an agreement where two of the military bases are going to house undocumented immigrants now in detention centers. Okay. I'm not even going to go into the conditions in this detention center. I'm not going to go into the due process. I'm not going to go into any of that because we could be talking for days. Okay. There's plenty of information out there. I'm not going to go into that. But it is a huge human rights violation. Huge. Everything. It's just horrible, horrible. And yeah, let's just not go into that. Okay. They also waived the Department of Homeland Security waived the statutory requirements to expedite the border wall and the river project in the Rio Grande Valley, Texas, which is the McAllen Harlingen area. Okay, where there is the Rio Grande River, and it allowed bypass of typical environmental and procedure laws to accelerate construction. Okay. It's aimed at fast tracking border infrastructure, and it's already in effect, not to mention the fact that the McAllen area is now a militarized zone. US Air Force actually oversees that area. And to reiterate, statutorily and by law, nothing has changed in the sense that within 100 miles of any US border, CBP has jurisdiction, basically can do what they want. They can ask anyone for their immigration status. Okay. So we are in Florida, right? In Florida, the entire state of Florida is within 100 miles of the border because no matter how you look at it, we are 100 miles from the shore. Okay.
Yes.
Even if you're in the middle of the state, you're still within 100 miles of the shore. So the entire state of Florida, for example, it's a border zone. Can Iowa say the same? No. Okay. But Chicago theoretically can, New York, San Francisco, every single one on the shore. There is actually a map on Google. You can see where the 100-mile ends, and that brings us to another topic later: who has jurisdiction where. But There is jurisdiction in McAllen and in the whole Rio Grande area, till El Paso, and so on. Anybody can be asked for their citizenship status. We tell our clients all the time, and we have clients who are US citizens, right? So we tell them all the time, carry proof of citizenship with you. Well, I don't want to lose my passport. If you have a US passport, also apply for a US passport card, not just the booklet. Carry the card with you. It's still better than nothing. If you are a US born citizen, have your birth certificate with you. If you are naturalized or you have a certificate of citizenship, carry the certificate with you. Um, yes, should you carry the original? No, because you only get one. And if you lose it, it's going to cost you thousands of dollars and 2 years to get it back. But have that. And having it simply on your device is not sufficient. Remember, if it's on your device can break when ICE picks you up because they are rough if you haven't seen the videos. So uh, have it with you, have it folded in a piece of paper, have it in your wallet.
So a
Okay.
license is not enough.
No, it's not enough. Driver's license doesn't prove anything. Driver's license proves that you can drive. Yes, it's a real ID if you want to fly, but that doesn't prove anything. And don't get me started on the yellow star on those, because we know where the yellow star was in the Second World War. Okay, they could have come up with a million different options for that, but no, it's a yellow star. Anyway, um, driver's license only proves you passed the test that allows you to drive. That's it. Okay, doesn't prove citizenship.
Right.
Doesn't prove your status in the United States. There are people in the United States who have valid driver's licenses who are here for a visa for a month. There are people who have valid driver's licenses whose status expired 10 years ago. Driver's license doesn't prove anything.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's a lot of people think I have a license, and
well,
yeah,
then they are ruling their life and going into life with hope and nothing else. That's hope. That's not preparation. That's not being prepared for what could happen or what's going on out there.
Right. Wow, that was cool.
Yeah, there you go. Do you want me to keep going? Let me see what else I got. All right. Department of Justice asks California sheriffs for non-citizen prisoner data, which is names, convictions, release dates. So local law enforcement now may share information and criminal conviction information for incarcerated non-citizens. And that's an issue. We should talk about that once, maybe another time,
Mary?
on what options people have if they are detained in regular jail or prison for criminal, non-criminal matter, okay? Not immigration detention. It's already on the way. We talked about the military bases. Yes, ICE is now seeing, it's now approaching landlords seeking private tenant data.
They can do that?
Well, apparently they can. That's a great question. They cannot do any of this. They cannot do any of this. The law is not being followed, which makes it very difficult for immigration lawyers to say you're entitled to this, but I cannot guarantee anything, because if they were to follow the law and the statute, you should be able to get X.
Right.
It's not being followed. Okay? The law is not being followed, period. Okay? You no longer have the right to Fifth Amendment theoretically and not to self-incriminate, because theoretically, you shouldn't have to answer any question, not even your country of birth, if somebody picks you up.
That's no longer the case.
No longer the case, really has never been, because they want to know. Until you prove you're a citizen, theoretically, they want to know. But let's say you're not in the 100 miles from the border. Let's say you're in the middle of, I don't know, Kansas City. Okay? What are your rights in Kansas City may be totally different than your rights in Alabama. Okay? Yes, it's federal. Yes, it's one country. Yes, the rules are different.
Mm-hmm.
The law in Vegas is different than the law in Houston, Texas. And it's different because how proximity to the border, what their policy is, what their agreements are with the federal government, what are the local agreements with the federal government. So Yes, all those things. Let's see what else. Hold on. No, that's it.
So you just tell me to remind you about an example of something that has happened, I believe, with a client that has to do with immigration changes, where you've had a, for example, legal strategy session and it no longer was valid.
Yeah, so I had a legal strategy session with the client about a year and a half ago. Okay. This particular client entered on a B1 visa, but not B1 visa for business meetings because there are multiple purposes for a B1 visa. They entered as a person who works on a yacht, okay? Crew member on a yacht. Now, there is a big difference between B1 working on a yacht and C1D working on cruise ships, okay? Which is one is transit, one is working on a yacht. So, totally different regulations, okay? So, they entered on a yacht and they finished their contract. And they came from, I think it was the Bahamas, their last port. They entered the United States in Fort Lauderdale and they got stamped with a B1. Their visa on the passport was B1, B2. They were at the end of the contract and they were literally coming to be here for the Ultra Music Festival. They were here for fun, okay? Right. Before they were going to go back to their country. And they should have been stamped with a B2, which is a tourist for pleasure. We have seen requests for evidence and denial since that last legal strategy session with that person. We have seen a change in policy where they are considering that these people are in transit, similar to C1D. And anyone who entered on C1D is no longer eligible to adjust status, even if you are married to a US citizen. So they came here, they did go to Ultra, they went with their then friend, boyfriend, whatever, uh, ended up pregnant. It was a high risk pregnancy. They're staying here. They had to deal with that for a few months, thinking the plan is the same. Well, no, now they are ready to proceed with their case with the adjustment of status. And now it's totally different. So now we have to worry about how are we going to overcome the B1 when they really came for B2. How are we going to do that? So that's got resolved. But that's very recent, and that's just a recent example. Right. We have so many that have entered on TPS or they entered on parole, the CHNV, we call it, right? So it's Cuba, Nicaragua, Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, or Venezuela. And they entered with parole for adjustment of status purposes. You are eligible to apply for adjustment if you are admitted or parole. The policy has changed. Parole under that particular category is no longer valid. Why is it no longer valid? They did enter with inspection. They they were paroled and they went through the whole vetting process in order to get that parole. Mm-hmm. So why is that no longer a thing? So now we have to look at each case by case. Every single one is different, and then it depends. I may give somebody from Venezuela totally different advice than somebody from Haiti, even though everything else could be the same. But yes, let's just use ChatGPT. Why don't we do that? Right?
Okay, so let's go into real impact and personal motivation. You did give us plenty of examples, but final question for this topic is what's one case or story that has recently stuck with you?
I have so many, so it's hard to pick just one. Okay. Um,
As of recently.
Recently. How recent? Let's say 30 days.
Oh, 30 days. I was going to say a couple of months, but let's go with 30
Let's go with
days.
30 days. Okay. So um, I had a consultation with a person years and years and years. Okay. We're talking 15 years ago. Okay. And I do keep track of everybody I talk to. Okay. And sometimes they call back a few years later, sometimes they don't. Um, They just recently booked a legal strategy session with me. And I'm like, great. I'm thinking in my mind, I am going to probably see how they can bring their family here now. They probably are permanent residents, citizens, whatever. Let's figure it out. Nope. It turns out these people have done absolutely nothing in the past 15 years about their immigration status. This person was initially on TPS, was eligible for TPS, got TPS, mind you, highly educated and no criminal record, no complications, none, zero. Okay. Married to a US citizen for the past 12 years. They used the tax preparer to help them with the immigration form. So when they went after the second renewal of TPS, they went to that particular person and they said, I'm married to a US citizen. Oh, you don't need TPS anymore. And they just assumed they were here lawfully and they haven't done anything about it. The spouse never petitioned for them. It's a US citizen, the spouse. Spouse never petitioned. They have 2 children now who are US citizens. Doesn't have TPS, doesn't have a work permit. Yes, has a social from the previous whatever. This person has not had any status. Now they want to do something about it because they're terrified. Okay. Yes, we can do it. They thought that they actually had status just because they were married. Okay. Marriage to a US citizen does not confer on anyone any lawful status. The government's position is actually, and this is puzzles all Americans, okay? It's like just because you're married to a US citizen doesn't entitle your foreign national spouse to stay in the United States or to come to the United States. The government's position is you chose a foreign national, you can theoretically go and live with them in their country. Right. And that's the truth. You can. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Depends on the country. Let's say you can. They're not entitled. It's not a right. We are going back to it's not a right, it's a benefit. So now we have to file for these people as soon as possible a new adjustment of status application, the whole packet. Okay. They've been married 12 years. 12 years. These are highly educated individuals. It puzzled me. It shocked me. Um, I'm struggling with it. Like, I don't know why somebody would do that. We need to do a whole Freedom of Information Act request, the FOIA request, to get their record from USCIS to see what happened on the previous TPS applications. They haven't kept copies of anything. So now we need to request those records to make sure we don't contradict any information. They haven't kept anything. We need to apply for the permanent residency, and there are no complications that we know of, assuming they're telling you 100% the truth, right? Right. And sometimes they don't. But I was shocked to hear from these people again after so long and still not have status. Because by now I expected even the parents to be here with permanent residency. They would have had citizenship. So that's the one that like stuck with me very recently. I'm shocked.
And that goes into misconceptions. Just because you're married to a US citizen doesn't automatically give you status.
Exactly. Not at all.
So this is what happens.
There is another misconception there that I can only have one application going on at the same time. Oh no, you can have multiple applications going on at the same time. However, timing is critical. Right. Timing is critical. So let's just stop there.
Yeah, but actually that goes into the next questions with what happens when you wait too long.
Sometimes waiting is beneficial. Most of the time, waiting hurts you, hurts your case, hurts your options because law changes, facts change, family situation change. So many things can change. And these days, it's really policy that changes all the time. So you wait too long, you may lose a couple of the options that you had the first time you met with the attorney, okay? Or the options that you had when you entered the country. There are people who have been here since early 90s who don't even know that you pay $1,000, you could generally get your green card. Somebody filed a petition for you before 1996, 97. Okay. So Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, this is the final wrap up. Knowledge is power, and taking action early is everything.
Oh, yeah, totally.
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 So, book a legal strategy session.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Book a strategy session. Um, yeah, definitely meet with an attorney. Look, you don't have to meet with us. That's fine. We are not everybody's cup of tea. But please meet with an immigration attorney. Don't meet with a paralegal. Don't. I love my paralegals. They're great, but they work under my supervision. I know when they're up to date. I know when
Hmm.
they know the law. I know what they're not a tax preparer. That's like going to the barber shop to have your tooth removed. We haven't done that in this country in decades. Let's not do that.
Yeah. So, book a strategy session, and who can technically hire you in the United States? From which country? From which state?
Immigration is federal.
Okay.
We help clients in all 50 states and anywhere in the world as long as we find that they have options for
Okay.
we find that we have options for them, or they qualify, or they know what they want. You'd be surprised how many times people don't know what they want. But we absolutely, so it's federal law. It doesn't matter where we are located. We help people everywhere. Our interactions with our clients are almost 100% virtual anyway, so it really doesn't matter where our clients are located.
That's very important to know.
Yes.
So, call. Right?
Excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you for joining us, Ms. Kaplan.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
see you soon.
Bye.